Welcome, welcome in everybody. Hello. Say hi.
Hi, welcome everybody.
Welcome in, y'all. I hope everybody can hear me. Check, check, 1, 2, 3, check, check. Hello from LA. Usually I'm zooming in from my kitchen, but I'm here in LA. We're gonna get started in just a couple seconds. We're letting folks trickle in. As you can tell, we are having a hybrid meeting today, and so we are both on Zoom with you lovely folks, and we're also in person with these lovely folks over here. So really, really excited to be in space with everybody, both in person and on Zoom. So please feel free, let us know where you're zooming in from in the chat. But we are going to get started momentarily. Just a quick introductions from the team, and then we will get started. So my name, y'all, is Adriana. I'm the statewide advocacy manager here at Initiate Justice. It is a pleasure to be in space. I'll pass it over to my colleague Ephraim to introduce himself.
Hi everyone, coming to you live here from LA. Like you said, for our first, I want to say this is our first hybrid ever. So please bear with us. My name's Efrain Ortiz, pronoun he, him, his. And I am actually recently got a job change. So I am the new membership and engagement coordinator here for Initiate Justice. So working directly with you all our folks out here in the community, all our outside membership base. So very excited to join you all. And welcome to all of you all that are here in person with us.
Yes, absolutely. Huge promotion for our dear Ephraim here, very much well deserved. And so please give him all of the love in the chat, all of the reactions. He has worked hard. And so he's not leaving us, but he did get a well-deserved promotion. So a huge hand for Ephraim there. Yes, awesome. All right, y'all. Today, um, we are going to drop some stuff in the chat very soon here. But if this is your first time, hi, welcome in. Grab a seat, grab a seat. If this is your first time here, we are going to be dropping a chat into the chat very soon, a link where you can join us and become a member of Initiate Justice. So what that means is, if it's your first time with us, signing up as a member, signing up into our email list, that means that you will receive all of our monthly updates, including our monthly newsletter. And so we do have a monthly newsletter that we send out every month at the end of every month. So you would get that, as well as our meeting recaps, as well as all of the information before it hits socials. So usually we try to send out information to our listeners before it hits on our socials and sometimes things like that. So those are the types of things that you will get by signing up to our listserv. And it just keeps you in the know and engaged into what's going on here at Initiate Justice, and some of the work that we're doing both in and outside of prisons. So we'll drop that into the chat soon. But until we do, you can sign up at tinyurl.com/joinij. Again, tinyurl.com/joinij. So again, today, what we will be doing is we have a crash course for our statewide policy advocacy workshop. And so this is going to be information that we primarily taught in our Institute of Impacted Leaders in the past and currently, but we are also bringing that to our community members as well, for those that may not be able to devote a full 12 weeks to the Institute, or maybe you weren't able to join this year round because it was in a different location than you currently live in. And so we wanted to bring this information to all of you this month, and hopefully we will continue to do these things in the future. And so we will be getting started with that in just a little bit. But before we do have some very important information to update you all on, specifically our policies. So we've been working very, very hard behind the scenes on all of our policies. If anybody caught the last hearing, we have some very, very good news to share, but I am going to pass things over to our policy associate, Shivani, to not just introduce herself really quick, but also just to give a quick policy update. So Shivani, I will pass it over to you.
Hey y'all, I'm Shivani, policy associate. Shout out to the Sonoma State class. I saw y'all pop up on the Zoom. I said, who is this classroom full of people joining us?
We have a full
Nice
classroom for
to see you guys. Yeah, so we're going to do a quick update on the Initiate Justice legislative package. Apologies that there are no slides, so it's just going to be a whole lot of me talking, but I will put my email in the chat in case anyone has follow-up questions, any details you want about our bills. So the biggest update is that all of our bills have passed the Appropriations Committee, which is very, very exciting. That is the committee that decides whether or not a bill is too expensive to move forward, essentially. So all of our bills have made it to the floor. As a refresher, that is AB 247 by Assemblymember Bryan. That bill will increase the hourly wages of incarcerated firefighters to $7.25. AB 812 by Assemblymember Lowenthal. This will make it so CDCR creates regulations so that CDCR can recommend incarcerated firefighters for resentencing. We have AB 1071 by Assemblymember Cara, and that is some technical fixes to the Racial Justice Act to make sure that it works as intended to eliminate racial discrimination from the courts. And then lastly, Senate Bill 553 by Senator Cortese. This is to enable access to folks on the inside for attorneys and government employees so they don't have to go through a lot of the tedious processes it takes to be able to visit folks on the inside. So all of these bills are now in their respective floors. The floor vote process is very, very long. Our Senate bill was up on the agenda yesterday, and it's been 2 days and it still hasn't been heard. They go through hundreds of bills and resolutions in this week and next week. So we are closely monitoring each of them, doing a lot of drop-in visits, sending floor alerts, trying to convince those last few folks to vote yes on our bills. And what will be very helpful is if you have a spare minute tonight, tomorrow, anytime this or next week, and you want to help out, you can email or call your local senator or assembly member encouraging them to vote yes on our bill. So we feel very optimistic about our legislation, but of course, these legislators like to hear from their constituents directly. So if you need any help finding out who your constituent is, we are more than happy to help with you. If you want a script of what to tell them about in terms of our bills, we're more than happy to help. So yeah, please feel free to use your voice in the next week and a half so we can get all of these bills to the finish line and make some step forward for our loved ones on the inside. And that is all from me. I will pass it back to you, Adriana.
Thanks, Shivani. Folks, if you have any quick questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But wondering, Shivani, if there's anything that you would suggest to community members tonight on any specific actions they might be able to take between now and whenever these bills might be heard on the floor.
So definitely reaching out to your assembly members and senators. If you have the ability to do drop-in district visits, so all of your representatives, or we call them assembly members, all of your assembly members and senators have offices where you live as well as in Sacramento. And so if you can do an in-district visit, that's great. If you want to call them, that's great. Let them know that you really think that they should vote yes on these bills. They have to tally every single time one of their constituents calls in, and they have to let the legislator know that this number of people supports these specific bills. So that is definitely the most helpful. We have talking points that we can definitely make available. I will put my email in the chat for anyone who's interested in getting those. But I would say that's really the biggest thing we can do right now is communicating directly to your legislators.
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button. That mute button runs away all the time. But thank you for that, Shivani. That is really powerful. I'm really excited. I know I was watching the suspense hearing on Friday, even though we as a staff had it off. And I was super excited when 247 made it. I had my mom watching the hearing. She was clapping. It was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. And so super excited about our bill. So yes, please, I know Ephraim dropped the link in the chat to find your rep. So please use that link. Please call your reps. Let them know to vote yes on these very, very important bills. We will be having a full policy update in November. And so that is when we do our full policy update after everything's been voted off the floor. The governor's had his say, all of the things. And so in November, we will be coming back into this space and we will do a full policy update. So stay tuned and come back for more for sure. But I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. So I think we can just transition over to our presentation for the evening. So give me a minute, y'all, so I can share my screen with y'all so you can see what we are seeing. Okay.
I should be able to share.
Can you? Oh, you can share off yours?
Yes.
Ephraim's gonna share his screen, y'all.
We're figuring it out, y'all.
We're figuring it out. We're figuring it out. Thank you, Ephraim. Appreciate it.
All right, yes.
Awesome.
Wow, that we're on the same page. Here we go.
We're all on the
We're
same page.
We're cooking.
Give it up for IJ, y'all. We're figuring it out. We got this. So tonight, y'all, we are going to be diving into statewide advocacy, our policy 101 presentation. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we typically do this information and bring this information into our Institute of Impacted Leaders program, which is a 12-week training, full 12 weeks. This is our crash course. And normally with our workshops that we've been doing this year, we've been doing 2 hours, 2.5, but we really wanted to bring this information to folks that maybe couldn't get to us in person throughout the state. And so we figured this was the best place to do it. So we're doing a condensed version. It will be a very fast, high-level overview of the California legislative process, but not just like what the process is, but why it's important for us to be involved in the process, share our voices, use our voices, making them heard, and also why it's just really important to know this information and understand what's happening in our state and in our communities. So that's a little bit of the information we are going to go over today. We also have a breakout activity for y'all. So we will be putting folks in groups and giving y'all a chance to discuss some of the issues that you may see in your community and talk through like what some potential solutions might be around those. Or maybe you might have some bill ideas that come out of that. Who knows? But we are going to let y'all have some conversations after going through this, over this information. And really what we hope today will bring is just a better understanding of how this whole process works. So this may be very new information for some. It may be refresher information for others. But no matter where you are at, please, please, please raise your hands if you have questions. Drop something into the chat. Let us know if you have any questions because we really want to make sure you are walking away today. You're not going to be an expert, but we at least want to make sure that y'all are walking away today with a better understanding than when you came in. Sound good? Yeah, all right. So let's get started. I'm not sharing my screen, so you can go ahead and move forward. And I'll cover the first and then I'll pass it to you. So for those that may be new, really just quickly, will the PowerPoint be sent out? Yes, we'll make sure that y'all get a copy of these slides. And so who is Initiate Justice? If you are new to this space, if this is your first time in one of our meetings, we are a nonprofit grassroots organization that's rooted in California, and our mission is to end incarceration in this state and throughout our country. And we activate that power, the political power specifically that folks have who have been impacted by this system. And so our focus is in policy, it's in education and training around policy, advocacy, civic engagement, all of that good stuff and everything in between in the state of California. So that's a little bit about us. You can go to the next slide.
Navigate.
You're good. We got this. We got this. So a little bit more about what we do, y'all. So our policy change is very much rooted in abolitionist values. And so we are constantly either holding the line against harmful legislation in our communities, or we are advocating for supportive legislation that's going to bring folks home from prison, legislation that's going to close prisons, or legislation that is going to create more access for impacted communities. We also do organizing. And so part of policy change is the other side of that is organizing people to get to the Capitol or to get their voices heard in the different spaces that exist. And so we do that through our Institute of Impacted Leaders, training and educating folks. We also have programs that are happening inside of prisons where we are sending in information about the policy process, the civic engagement information, as well as holding workshops as well. And we also have a podcast, and we do community engagement and other workshops like this in person in the extended community. So we do a lot, but at our core and at the focus is just making sure that we empower folks and we equip folks with the tools and the knowledge and education around how to engage with the policy process. All right, so quick agenda. This is what we're doing today, y'all. We already did the agenda. We're doing the agenda right now, but we're going to get into our legislative advocacy presentation. Again, please make sure you are asking questions. If you do have questions, that includes my in-person and my Zoom folks. Please make sure we will do a breakout activity, and then we will close, share a little bit about some upcoming meetings and events, and then we will move on. That will be our evening. And so these are, again, what we want y'all to walk away from at the end of the evening. And so again, not being an expert, but again, like I said, understanding the policy process a little bit more than when you walked into it. And then also just how to engage with it, right, at the state level. And so reiterating that Initiate Justice does focus on statewide policy, so that is what we will be focusing on today. So we're not going to get into like local, so like city, county, or any federal legislation or the federal process. We're specifically going to be talking about the state process today. There is a lot of overlap. So first thing we want to do is see if anybody can go through this question. And so we do have a little bit of an icebreaker. So we want to take just a couple minutes and pose this question for folks. And so if you want to either drop something in the chat, raise your hand and come off mute, or for folks in person, if you want to answer as well. The question is, what's one law or policy, past or present, that has personally impacted your life for better or worse?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I'm AJ Okodio, the SAVE Act.
The SAVE Act. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what that was and how it impacted you?
After a bunch of nonsense striking down student loan forgiveness, the SAVE Act was passed as a income-based repayment plan for federal student loans. It put on a number of really meaningful caps, including stopping runaway interest from increasing people's balances, and it allowed for as low as $0 income-based repayment plans. So that I have never earned a lot. I work in nonprofits. It's a really terrible habit. And it allowed me to make genuinely affordable payment plans on my federal student loans.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for sharing. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody here? Anybody there?
I mean, I could go, and it's one I've always talked about. It's one of the many reasons why I like really came to Initiate Justice. Ephraim, by the way, was a gun enhancement. I was convicted in 2009, and that ridiculous law gave me 10 years extra on my already 3 to 5 year sentence. It's something that I know here at Initiate Justice, we've gone after, we chased after, and we will continue to go after. And I know that's a law that deeply impacts our community inside. And I know we are very passionate about bringing them home because of that law. We're already getting punished for the crime we committed, right? And I'm accountable for that. But on top of that, they're, adding these enhancements, which impact, didn't just impact myself, but impacted my family as well. So I would say that one.
Awesome.
Go
ahead.
I would say maybe the youth offender, right? Back in about 10 years ago, my best friend got basically 50 to life, and he qualified when that law came in, qualified for resentencing, and they gave him half of it. Well, not 50, they gave him 25, so they resentenced him based off of that.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? I can share one, and then we can move on and dig into a little bit about why this question. And so I think one, it hasn't necessarily personally impacted me, but it is one that I personally worked on and impacts a lot of people. It was called the Justice for Survivors Act, AB 124, by Assembly member at the time, Senator Kamlager, I think. But it basically created a pathway for vacatur for folks who have been criminalized through their victimization experience. And so folks who've been victimized by domestic violence, sexual assault, trafficking, et cetera, gender-based crimes, it created a pathway for vacatur. So for folks that, got caught up and were criminalized in their circumstances, they were able to go for vacatur more easily, which previously wasn't allowable for those kinds of cases. And so it expanded. Right now, it's only expanded to nonviolent, but I know that folks are continuously trying to expand that to violent crimes as well. So it's only a matter of time before I'm looped in that as well. But it is something that impacts so many people in a myriad of different ways. And so that's one policy I know for sure. But why this question? Let me see if there's anybody else in Zoom world.
I know Sherry added the work done for restoring voting rights, right? She puts, I feel it's so important to get some control over your life when we come home. Yes, in Proposition 17, which we passed a couple years back, restoring voting rights for people on parole. And I would say, stay tuned because it's only the beginning, right? We want voting rights for all. Let's continue to fight for voting rights for our communities. We have a voice, and we should be on there on the ballot. So yes, that's a big one.
Absolutely, absolutely. So why this question, y'all? Why this question? Why are we asking, like, what policy impacts your life, right? For better or worse? And we're asking this because we know that everything is a policy, from how you are able to access your healthcare to, what, how often your street gets cleaned, to where even you might be able to get housing and access housing. Everything is rooted in policy and legislation that I have come to learn and understand, right? And so I think it's so important for us to be able to recognize when these policies and when this legislation is impacting our lives and our day-to-day. And so, yes, myriad of things in public safety space for sure. But I think there's also, healthcare policies, environmental policies, health policies, right? All of that stuff that is impacting us day to day. So keep that in mind as we are going through the process and as we were talking about legislation and and policies and all of this stuff. Keep it in mind of like what is affecting me currently day to day. Like anytime I walk out my front door, what do I see? And you may not be able to say like that policy is affecting me, but you might be able to say like, well, my street doesn't get cleaned as much as nicer neighborhoods do, like street sweepers. And so it's rooted in some type of a policy, probably, right? So you might be able to look into that. So keep those things in mind as we move forward. But Efrain, you can take us forward. And I believe this first slide is an overview of the California State Legislature. So I'm going to kick it over to you, Efrain, to get us started here.
Awesome. Yes. So our California state legislature is comprised of two cabinets, so to speak. We have the Senate here, which contains 40 senators. One of those 40 senators represents you all in your district, right? Likewise, on the other side, we have the assembly, right? That is comprised of 80 members, right? Again, similar, the same as the Senate. So you all have that one state senator, one state assembly member, both of which represent you. As you can tell, there's a big, it's double the amount. So assembly members cover a smaller district when it comes down to that. And what do they do, right? These people, these representatives are those representatives that are there to pass new state laws, right? Legislative bills, resolutions, right? This is why we say it's so important to have these conversations with representatives, because if there's something going on in your community, right, when you start organizing, you can bring those ideas to your representative, right, and start planning and start creating a bill idea from this, right? They're also in charge of passing their state budget, right? Which funds all these California state agencies. you know, in regards to our work, including CDCR. So it's something that we closely watch when it comes down to it. As you all probably have heard, you know, California is in a budget crisis, right? They keep talking about it and all that. So we keep telling them, shut those prisons down, right? There's no need for all of those prisons that they have operating and running, but these are decisions that they make, right? They also, you know, I think something that Shivani mentioned, right, earlier today in regards to the in district, right? And I dropped a link earlier, and I'll go ahead and drop it in a little bit right now again to find your representative. I don't know if people want to drop on or by show of hands with the emojis, if you know your state representatives, who your state representatives are. You know, anybody? No? Okay, see, that's good. That's good. That's why we're here, right? We're here to learn, right? And then definitely we'll be sharing out all that information. Again, you see it there. It's fine to find your representatives. It's findyourrep.legislator.ca.gov. Definitely, it's an easy website to navigate. In it, you'll see your state senator, your assembly member, and then they have the link. They have a clickable link that takes you directly to their website. I encourage you all to like really get to know who your representative is, right? Who's representing your district, where you live at right now, and get to know them, right? Because again, they are there, they are put in this position by us, right? We vote them into these positions, right, through the election process. Likewise, we can vote them out, right? If they're not there to serve our communities, I remind folks that like we can vote them out, but also they're also there to do this casework to assist you, right, with smaller things that are personally impact you, right? It might not impact your whole community, but feel free to reach out because they do have the resources. Even if they can't assist you, they will connect you with resources. So definitely strongly encourage you to just start building these relationships with your representatives, whether it's email, dropping in on their district office, just get to know them.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I can find by the zip code or not the council one, but the Senate, right? The councilman and the council one.
The council will be different. That'll be more on the local level. Yeah, your council member will be on the local level. This is strictly focusing on state, your state representative. Yeah, so if you go on there, all you'll simply have to do is enter your address with your zip code, and then it'll let you know who your state senator is, who your state assembly members.
Yeah. And I'll add to that,
Yes.
if you have loved ones who are currently incarcerated in a state facility, you can plug in the address of the state facility. So for instance, if somebody is locked up in CIW, you can type in the 167, why do I still know the address? But Chino Corona Road, right? And you can find out who, which representative, both state assembly and state senator, what prison that district sits in. And so if there's an issue with that prison facility, for instance, you can go to your representative or that specific representative and say, hey, there's an issue with this prison, it's in your district, X, Y, and Z, how can you help the situation out? Yeah. So really, really good information. And like Efrain said, we will share all the slides and everything out that. But we also, for those on Zoom, we dropped the link to the Find Your Rep into the chat a couple times. So definitely go over there, use that link if you have not done so already. Go ahead, Efrain.
With me?
Yeah.
Got it. All right, I'll take it. And I'm sorry, y'all, but we have like let me see if we can see it here. The new beautiful annotated version, which is it's the same legislative process that you will see. This is basically letting you know how a bill becomes law, the different steps it takes to become law, right?
We have a couple hands, so I'm gonna pause you. We have a couple hands.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go, I don't know who did it first, so I'm gonna go in alphabetical order. Antoinette and then Askia.
Hi, everyone. Antoinette Ratcliffe. I just wanted to briefly respond to the question just recently asked around like, is it based upon zip code? And I do want to clarify that for your like state assembly members and your state senators, those districts are drawn independent of your zip code. And so it could be that you and someone who share the same zip code may have different assembly members, but may have the same senator. Because senators represent a larger district and then assembly members represent a little bit of a smaller district. So it's really important that when you are looking for your legislator that you're putting in your full residential address, or typically it's going to be the address your residential address, the address that you're registered to vote from, because it's not solely based on zip code. It's based on where you reside specifically.
Nice. Thank you for that. Definitely good information. And then, Askia, go ahead.
Yes, just Dr. Ashanti. I have 2 points. First, on the earlier posting you have about what policy affects you if you were impacted. I was going to acknowledge Penal Code 1170D. That's where the CDC director or the Board of Prison Terms, and then they changed the law in 2018. They amended it, and they allowed the district attorney or the attorney general. They can ask for the court to recall your case, resentencing based on your conduct or your rehabilitation while in prison. So that actually happened to me. 1995, I was sentenced under 3-strike law. I got 25 life on my 3rd strike for joyriding under Vehicle Code 10851. They call it driving without owner's consent. So 25 life, they gave me in 1995. I ended up serving 27 years on it. I was released in 2022 up under that law, Penal Code 1170D, where the former Los Angeles District Attorney, Dr. George Gascon, recalled over 1,000 cases from LA County where if your 3rd strike was nonviolent, non-serious, like my joyriding, he had everyone resentenced. So I want to give an acknowledgement to that. I want to ask Initiative Justice to also focus on that law, Penal Code 1170D. They have that section in there where the Board of Prison Terms can recall the case. When me and my attorney filed the case in court for the recall, the Board of Prison Terms, even though they give them authority, 30 years of law been on the books, they've never ever sent not a single prisoner back to court for resentencing because you have to appear before the board to be released. So maybe there should be an amendment to exclude them from that section in 1170D, since they've never ever referred anyone back to court. Only the California prison director, and then also, of course, the district attorney. That's point one. Then number 2, since Governor Gascon, not Governor Gascon, Governor Newsom, he's adding some new seats. You guys don't have a map showing the bill that he has for the California voters for November. Actually, I think it's in 2 months we're gonna vote. He's adding more seats. He's challenging Texas adding Republican seats. I guess he wants to add Democrat seats. I'm independent. I'm actually not Democrat or Republican. I'm under the independent party. You guys don't have a map showing that?
So we don't have a map for it. I know just based on what I've seen on the news that there is some maps going around and things like that. I do not have any information on the map, so we can't share that today. But I love the legislation piece that you brought up that you talked about. You were personally impacted by. So thank you. I think also folks acknowledged it in the chat as like definitely something powerful to uplift. I also do want to point out to your other point in terms of like the potential legislation. Shivani, I don't know if you want to drop your email in the chat, but our policy team, definitely you want to reach out to our policy team if you have ideas for legislation, bills, any of that thing. Or if you just think some of the implementation on some of the already legislation that's been implemented needs to be taken a closer look at, you can always reach out to our policy team for those types of questions or those suggestions for sure. And then in regards to the situation about the maps, no, we do not have pictures or any of the maps at this point. But great questions and great points. Thank you so much. And then
I think Antoinette
Can I
has.
jump in
do you have?
briefly?
Oh, go
I
ahead.
do. Sorry. So I want to, one, just say thank you. Great question. I also want to uplift what Caitlin Henry put in the chat. So the first time I ever learned about the 1170 D1 resentencing process was actually from Caitlin Henry in the Institute of Impacted Leaders back in 2019. Very fierce advocate and attorney who works alongside various groups. And there's actually like a resentencing sort of informal like coalition space where they're continuously thinking through ways to improve and expand access to resentencing. And so wanted to share and uplift what Caitlin put in the chat and really encourage you to circle back with Caitlin with those ideas and with that information so that you can join those meetings, join those spaces and contribute to the work at that level. And then also wanting to uplift what Adriana said, yes, definitely email us with those questions regarding those maps. Perhaps it is something that we may be able to find resources for. We do want to know like what our community needs from us, and how we could be showing up and making sure that you are educated. And so definitely feel free to reach out to us with those questions so that we can make sure we're providing the information that you all are looking for from us.
And then
Absolutely.
really
Sure.
quick, so sorry, Adriana, but really quick.
No, go ahead. Go
We
ahead.
also do have a policy proposal form. So this is basically a form version of our worksheet that we use internally when thinking through policy ideas. I saw some questions from the students at Sonoma State of, you know, how do we decide what policy to go move forward with? Like, what do we think about when we think about challenges and strategy and coalition building? So if you check out that Google form that's dropped in the chat, and I'm sure Adriana and Ephraim can send it out as well in the recap, you can see some of the things we think about so that you guys can think about it when putting together your own proposals. And definitely feel free to send those to us as well.
Awesome sauce. Thank you, Shivani, and thank you for dropping that link in the chat too. Alrighty, so we are going to hop back into the policy process, but please feel free. I love to see all the engagement in the chat, so please continue that going forward. Go ahead, Ephraim.
Yes. So this is just a brief overview. Adriana, we'll dive into this right now next. So again, as I mentioned earlier, you know, it starts with an idea, right? Then what we do is find an author, right? That is someone that is gonna carry the bill, right? It then becomes a bill. The bill is then introduced into legislation, right? And then there, as you see there through the thing, there's like a bunch of boxes, right? But it goes through the policy committee, right? Then if it has to go through a fiscal committee, which is just for those that are here joining us, for any public safety bill, usually over 250,000, correct me if I'm wrong, would have to go through the fiscal committee just to see how much the bill's going to cost, etc. Then it goes off to the floor vote, right? Once it passes the first house, whichever house it might be introduced in, right? If it's Assembly bill, Senate bill, then it has to go through the same process through the second house, right? If it's passed, then it then goes to the governor's desk, and then most bills will take effect the following year. That is, unless it's stated otherwise in the bill language. And that was just a quick one. You're diving into this? Okay, cool.
You coordinator, go ahead.
So as I mentioned, right, this is just like the bigger view of it. Right, once the idea comes again from, it can come from agencies, right, from organizations, from individuals, right, from community members, things of that nature. Proposition 17 was an idea that came in from one of our inside organizers, right? Again, there's no, the ideas can come from any bill idea can come from anywhere. I know you all have some amazing ideas already there. So we're thinking about that, right? Once we go through that, if you see on the left side, the yellow bar, right? It starts with idea. Then you find somebody who's willing to author the bill, right? Authoring the bill, and by someone, I mean a state representative, right? Whether California Assembly member or a senator. Once they have it, right? If it's say, so just for this sake, we'll say it's an assembly member, right? It'll go through the top section, right? It goes to assembly member. He then introduces that to the legislative council, which will like fine tune the bill, right? It puts it in legal language, right? Fix any little things on that in order to be introduced. Once the bill is introduced, it's sent to the rules committee, right, to be referred, right? They decide, okay, what the bill has, what committees that needs to go through. As I mentioned earlier, any criminal justice bills will have to go through the public safety committee, right? Then it goes to the committees, right? Whatever committee that might be, right? It goes to the policy committee, right? The bill is then voted on in the policy committee. Many of you all have received our calls to action right before our bill is going to the public safety hearing. The public safety committee will reach out to folks. This is where it's important. This is like one of those stages where it's important for us to call, especially those that are sitting on the public safety committee, right? And I will add that, the committees are smaller, so you're not talking about all 80 assembly members, all 40 senators. Your committees are smaller groups of those individuals, right? If you look at the California Assembly website or the California Senate website, you can see the different committees there are and who sits on those committees, right? So it might be your representatives who sits as a chairperson or co-chair for that committee, right? Or just sits in the committee. Therefore, they'll be important people to contact, right? After the bill is voted on in the policy committee, once it passes that, it goes. If it has a fiscal impact, it will go through appropriation. If there's like a financial cost, right? Then it also gets voted on in that next step, right? In the appropriations committee, right? Once it passes that stage, right, it goes down to the assembly floor. Now, this is where all 80 representatives, because we're speaking about assembly in this case right now. So all 80 of those assembly members will vote on that, right? There are some bills that require just a majority vote, right? There are also some bills that will require two-thirds vote, right? Once it passes the assembly floor, then we go back and do it all over again on the Senate side.
Yeah.
Right? The same steps that I just mentioned, it'll go through on the Senate side, through the policy committee, through appropriations, then to the Senate floor. If at any point in time the bill is amended, meaning there's been a change in language, there's to the bill, then it will go to, if you look at the top right of that chart, if the bill's amended, it would have to go back to its original house to get the concurrence vote, right? So meaning that they're acknowledging that something was changed in the language, and it'll have to get another concurrence vote for that. Once that happens, let's say we made it all the way through these steps, right? If it's passed, it goes then to the governor's desk, right? The governor then has 30 days to sign the bill, veto the bill, or not sign the bill, right? If he signs the bill, it becomes law. If it's returned without a signature, it still becomes law. And if he vetoes it, then obviously murder it. But yeah, the bill dies, right? It doesn't take an effect, even though it went, through the whole process, right? And the governor has that power to veto the bill. Anything I missed, Adriana?
I don't think so. I think I covered everything. Questions?
On the committee, is it a majority vote? How does it pass?
Yes, it is a majority vote, yes. Yes, go
So
ahead.
when he doesn't sign it but doesn't veto it, I know what the difference is, but is it that he doesn't support it, but he's not gonna go against it?
Yeah.
Great question.
That's a great question, and I
A
think it
great
depends on the governor, right? There's gonna be some bills that maybe like that the governor will just stay off of and just say, okay, I'll let the legislators figure that one out. And just turn it without a signature. Some he very much gets involved in, governors will very much get involved in, and then that's when they have like veto messages that come out. What is this? Veto messages that come out and say like, I didn't sign this bill because X, Y, and Z. So sometimes it may make sense, other times it may not make sense. And that's the beauty of democracy, right? We get to disagree even when decisions are made, for sure. And then I see another question that says, this is from Zoom, and it says, what determines whether a bill requires majority vote or 2/3 vote? So on the assembly floor or on the Senate floor, there are certain bills that either are simple majority or you need a 2/3 vote of the entire legislature. So for an example, I know when we are changing the Constitution, so when we do a constitutional amendment, so let's say we want to restore the voting rights for people that are currently in state prison. right? That takes like a constitutional amendment to do, because per the Constitution, they're not allowed to do that right now. And so that is the type of bill that would take a 2/3 majority vote of the legislature, where we need that much to agree. Otherwise, we can just do a simple majority, and usually it'll stay on bills, whether or not it's a simple majority vote or if it's a 2/3 vote requirement. That was a great question. And I think somebody else answered it. Thank you also for answering it in the chat, Shivani. Appreciate it. Love that. And thank you, team, for supporting with all the stuff in the chat as well. Any other questions before we go through the process? We're gonna touch on some of these other things like the committees, but want to make sure that folks get their questions asked. So continue to pop them in the chat or raise your hand and we'll invite you to come off mute. You can go on. But for the legislative committees, like we talked about, so in the process, bills will go through what's called a policy committee. So there's different types of policy committees. Remember, Ephraim talked about it going through the rules committee first. And so the rules committee determines where it's going to go. And then once it gets to that policy committee, those legislators on that committee are going to determine to move forward. So there's various different types of committees. The one we typically deal with most is going to be public safety. But we've also had bills go through the elections committee before, the judiciary committee. So public safety is the committee, all things penal code. So prisons, jails, police. If we have to change or modify anything in those categories, it usually is going through public safety. Agriculture, right? Agriculture, grapes, the stuff that's growing in the ground, right? Very much everything in the Central Valley, right, where I am from. That's very much agriculture, right? My legislators in the Central Valley are always on the agriculture committee. So because that's what's in our space. Then we also have housing, community development, health, education, judiciary. There's many, many more committees for policy committees. Believe it or not, there's an arts and entertainment committee, right? Everything goes through a committee, which you will learn. Everything goes through a committee. Nothing goes through the state legislature process without touching a committee. So even if they are discussing water rates, right, that's going to go through your utilities committee. So there are various other committees that specifically handle subject matter legislation. And then the appropriations committee, as Efrain said, this committee handles and assesses all of the monies. So if a bill is approved and has a financial cost to it, it's sent to this committee where they discuss with all of the budget folks, how much is it going to cost, where's the money going to come from, who's paying for it, all those pieces. And then they either send it out of appropriations to the next step or it gets held. And so non-fiscal bills will skip this step. So if there's no cost or if it's like very, very minimal, 50 cents, right? It's probably going to skip the appropriations committee. But if there is a cost, it does go through this committee. I see a hand from Stephanie on Zoom. Go ahead.
Hi. Okay, so the policy committee and the appropriations committee, is that made up of both the Assembly and the Senate, or is it under the Assembly's made up, or the policy committee is made up of the Assembly under that column, and then the appropriations committee is made up of the Senate and it?
Great question. The way my slides are here, it's probably a little confusing. But yes, so both of these committees exist in both houses. So there's a public safety committee, agriculture committee, et cetera, and an appropriations committee on the Assembly side. And there's also that same thing on the Senate side as well.
Okay, so really quick follow-up, just to confirm. So each house has its own, so they're not like the policy committees are a mix of Assembly and Senate. They have their own.
No,
Okay.
no, not when it comes to legislation. I'm not going to get into all that, but there are times where they have special committees where you might bring both reps from both the Senate and the Assembly together because they have to discuss some really important pieces, not necessarily legislation. They don't do policy, but they discuss more issue stuff. So what are we going to do about the housing prices? You know, they discuss those things. And so they can, but for the purposes of just passing legislation through the process, they very much handle that in their own separate committees and their own separate houses.
Andrew, so the question was like for the signature, does it cost for the guys actually sign the legislative, is that one of the costly ones, or does it cost for that?
So you mean when you see people out and they're asking you for a signature on their petition?
Yes.
No, those are petitions, so those are different than legislation. So
Okay.
when you get somebody who's approaching you at like the Walmart or something and they're like, sign this petition, I always ask people like, what are they asking me to sign? They never know. But they lie. But that is usually like somebody's trying to get something on a ballot, and usually it's in the local space, but you can do a petition to get something on like the statewide ballot and things like that. Yeah.
Come to assembly or senate.
Yeah, but that's usually like when you're trying to get a bill onto a ballot instead, not necessarily going through the legislative process, like with just an idea. So if I started with just an idea, I have to go through this process right here and go through the long process, yes. A little bit different when there is a way to get something for petition wise, but it's a little bit different of a process. Great question, Flo. Alrighty, so like I said, y'all, high level, we're moving through things. So what we're showing y'all right now is the legislative calendar. So as we just shared, there is a very specific process for bills. There's also very specific deadlines for this process to happen. So we are in September. It's September 3rd, y'all. Y'all know what that means? It was the 3rd of September. Anyway, we're in September, and so this month is the last day for bills to pass out of their houses, so either the Senate or the Assembly, to make it to the governor's desk. And so I believe the date is September 12th this year. And so that means in October, how it says the governor has 30 days to sign or veto bills, that's from that last day. So September 12th, 30 days from there. That's how long the governor has to sign any new bills that get to his desk in that time into law, or either veto them or return them without a signature like we talked about. And so this is what's happening this month and the next couple months. That's where we are at in the legislative process. The last few months, everything was like, you'll see like June was a deadline for bills to pass out of their house of origin, so where they started. July, we had a summer recess. We're in 2025, so we're not having a general election.
Oh, it froze.
Am I frozen?
You froze briefly for me after you said summer recess, but you're back.
Oh, okay. I'm wondering, can everybody hear me?
We can hear y'all, but y'all video is frozen if you want to turn it off and then back on.
Okay, let me turn it on. Turn it off. Turn it on. You want to try your video, Efren? Or your sound?
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all.
We can hear you.
Technical difficulties, but as long as you can hear me.
Yes.
As long
We
as
can hear you.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, okay. Perfect. So
Turn on your camera again.
where we were at in the legislative process right now, oh my gosh, is technical difficulties, y'all, is September. Then we'll go through October. November, there's no general election, but as we've seen on the news, there is going to be a special election in November. And so we're not going to spend any time talking about that today, but that is something that is coming down the line. A special election is something that is only specific to one specific issue or something like that, as opposed to a general election or the primaries, where we're voting on multiple things, issues, people, et cetera, et cetera. And where we are going next in the legislative process is in December, we'll have a new 2-year legislative session that begins in even numbered years. And so we just started a 2-year session in December 2024. So in December 2026, we'll be out of this current 2-year cycle that we're in, and we will start a fresh one at the end of December 2026. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, cool. It can be a little confusing because it's like, wait, when does it start? And so our cycles run in a 2-year session. So for instance, we have a couple of bills right now, they're 2-year bills. We will continue work on those in 2026, and we have until the end of 2026 to get them out and signed by the governor and sign them to law. New bills always take effect January 1st, unless, of course, there's something in the bill language that says otherwise. The legislature also reconvenes from a winter break, and the governor gets started drafting their budget, right? So they come out with a budget. We're not going to go through all of these just for the sake of time, but we are going to be sharing a resource for the legislative calendar where you can go on to either the Senate or the Assembly website, look at the legislative calendar, look at the specific dates and deadlines. You can also click on stuff and it'll take you to hyperlinks so you can dig more into like, okay, well, what does the fiscal committee actually do, right? And you can really dig more into that stuff.
Yeah.
You can go to the next slide. So why does all of this matter? Why are we telling y'all about the process and legislation and policy committees and all of that? First of all, like we said at the beginning, it's important for our voices to be involved in this process as much as possible. When these policies are literally about governing us, we, the governed, have a right to be involved in that. That's our democracy. We are a self-governing democracy. At least we should be, right? And so that is why we do this, so that we can tell folks like, yes, we should be this, so let's be this. And this is how we can get involved, by understanding what the process is and knowing how we can plug in. And so there's different ways that y'all can plug in throughout that whole entire process that we shared with y'all, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But more of why this matters is because it empowers each and every one of us to get involved. It amplifies our voice, right? There's power and strength in numbers. When we come together as one, as a community, it's much more effective and powerful than to just approach with one of us saying we need this change, right? It also holds people accountable. Like Efrain said earlier, we elect these folks into office. And so it is our job to make sure that they stay accountable, right? Just like if you have, little siblings or nieces, nephews, cousins, little kids in your house, whatever the case may be, or whoever, right? It's our job to hold each other accountable, right? And it's no less true when it comes to our elected officials. And so being involved in the process, understanding the process, it allows us to hold them accountable when they deviate and when they step out of line and say, hey, you're not following the rules. You're not following the rules. What's going on? I need a meeting so I can hold you accountable, right? And it just ensures that we have the resources that we need to thrive. So when we approach them and we are advocating for a sensible budget, for more access to housing, for people to come home, for more investment into community resources as opposed to prisons, it allows us to hang on to the resources and create more resource and create more access for folks throughout the community. And it's your right.
All right.
It's your right. It's your American Californian citizen right, right? And even if folks, I know, like especially right now in the times that we're living in, with so much going on with immigration, but guess what? They can also interact. People can also interact, right? And go to either the representative of the district they live in, right? Maybe they may not be able to vote, right? But they can still go and say, hey, I live here, and this is what's impacting me. So no matter where you might be at in life, doesn't matter, your voice matters, and you can, for sure. Miss anything, Efrain?
No, I think you covered it all.
Nice. I'll let you take this one.
Right. How do we engage in effective advocacy, right? Again, I mentioned earlier, right? Begin by building these relationships, right? Connect with local organizations in your community, right? You're here connected with us today with Initiate Justice. Again, we do statewide policy, but there's also smaller organizations in your local level that are covering those issue areas that might be impacting you or you're passionate about, right? Continue to engage with those communities, with the people around you, right? There's power in numbers, right? When we talk about meeting with your representatives, right? Showing up, say all 8 of us here roll up instead of just one person, they're going to listen a little bit more, especially if they know that we hold that power to vote them in or out, right? But just really share with them. It's important for them to hear like what matters to us in our communities, right? Because oftentimes they don't, right? What I found is that they make sometimes decisions on things that they know nothing really truly about. Why? Because our community members are not really having those conversations with them, right? This is why we encourage folks to continue to do that, right? Engage with your representatives, engage with those local organizations, right, to do the work. research and gather data, right? Whatever that may look like, right? I think I look at that sometimes, I'm like, oh, that's a lot, right? But again, you want to make those strong cases in your community, right? Whatever it might be, right? If there's just constant graffiti in your neighborhood, if there's whatever, right? On the local level, right? Think about it that way, right? Thinking about that. Find common ground, right? I mentioned earlier getting to know your representatives, right? If you click on their website, it has a bio about them. Connect, see if there's any connection with that and utilize that when you build those relationships, right? Again, do a little bit of research on them, know your representatives, right? Be patient and consistent. I cannot stress this enough, right? We don't change things overnight, right? It takes work, it takes hard work, dedication from all of us, right? All of our community members, all of you all here on the Zoom in person today, right? We couldn't do the work without you all. Just continue to be patient, be consistent, and then create an organizing strategy chart. That chart you see there on the screen, we will also share with you all. It's a tool that we utilize here at Initiate Justice. We utilize when it comes down to when we're strategizing for a bill idea, knowing who your representatives are, who your constituents are, opponents, the target, the different tactics you might want to take, the strategies, things of that nature. It's like creating a plan, right? And again, I may not have all the answers, but if I sit here in this room with all 8 of you, or sit in the Zoom with all 25 of you all in here, we can create this strategy chart together. You will talk about how you're going to organize, how you're going to advocate, how you're going to do the things that need to get done in order to get that idea through or get the bill through the process.
There's a couple questions in the chat really quickly. You can go to the next slide, it's okay. But just there was a question around what are the most effective methods for persuading detractors to be supporters? And I think we covered it on the last slide, which just says meet folks where they're at, try to find common ground. Right, there may be a reason why somebody opposes something, right? That's rooted in their experience, and so you don't want to deny their experience or detract from it or to minimize their experience, right? So you want to find common ground as much as possible. Definitely stand your ground, but find common ground. Find common ground, and some people are just not going to agree, and that's okay. You can only do as much as you can and share as much as you can. And then, as I like to say, let the chips fall where they may, so to speak. But definitely share your experience in finding that common ground. There's also another question around like how to find local organizations. 211 is a great resource to find local organizations in your community that are either working in reentry spaces, housing, healthcare, whatever it might be. Also, I always just say Google. If you're looking for an organization that does something very specific in your backyard, Google it. Tell Google exactly what you're looking for. It works just like Yellow Pages used to. And it will definitely pull up some information and things like that. And also just connecting with other orgs and say, hey, do you know of any similar orgs that do what you're doing in my area? Yeah. So if you're having trouble finding, connect with local orgs or organizations you're already connected to, and see if they can put you in contact with some similar orgs in your area, for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and also like definitely like I'll drop my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me as well. Like I know a lot of like different organizations. We do have like whether it's like for reentry, whatever it might be. Definitely if I can be there to support or whatever and connect you with someone else, feel free to reach out. Just letting us know where your community is. But yeah, I mean, all the great there's a tons of ways, and there's dozens and hundreds and thousands of those organizations out here, depending on the issue area you want to focus on.
Yeah. And then this one is just reiterating how you can be civically engaged and stay connected into this process. And so connecting with your state reps, you can do that in person, you can do that through phone calls, you can do that through emails, meetings. If you are the shy type that is like, I don't really like meeting new people, especially, legislators, there may be some hesitancy there, depending on your experience with people that are walking around in suits all day. That's totally fine. You could send emails, you can send phone calls. As Shivani mentioned earlier, they have to document every time a constituent calls them with anything or sends an email or anything like that. Something else we don't have is following them on social media. So you can follow your reps on social media. I follow mine on both Instagram and Facebook. I have a couple of legislators that I follow on TikTok. So there's so many ways to connect with your representatives. And so that's the most important thing. Connect with them and stay connected to figure out what they're doing. You can also attend the legislative hearings at the state capitol. And if you can't get there in person, you can watch them online because they do stream them. And then just get involved with local efforts, right? And so there's a lot of overlap sometimes between state, city, county, federal, like democracy overlaps with each other at times. And so definitely get involved. Stay informed, register to vote and vote when the opportunity arises. When your folks come home from incarceration, tell them they can register to vote. Their rights have been restored. Register, vote when the opportunity arises. However that might be, right? But the important thing is that you vote and that you just exercise your right to democracy. And spread the knowledge, spread the information. Don't gatekeep it. Once you've got it, once you've accessed it, spread it around, because the more of us know about this information and know how to access it, the more power that we build in the community. More tips for being an advocate: be informed, be persistent, be strategic, share your story always, only what you're comfortable with. You don't have to share all of your business, right? Nobody is obligated to your story, it's yours. You get to decide what you tell. If you only want to tell 25% that's your business, guess what? We won't know. We won't know. It's only 25%. So don't feel the need or don't feel obligated that you have to share every little thing to make somebody understand. There's a myriad of ways of getting somebody to understand your story and your experiences without being overly vulnerable to the point that it makes you uncomfortable. So that's what I'm trying to say. Don't be uncomfortable when you're sharing your story. Always be comfortable in that space.
Antoinette.
Thank you. And sorry I keep jumping in, y'all. I thoroughly enjoy these spaces. I do want to share one of my tips for staying informed, especially when it comes to legislation that you're following, a particular bill that you're following, is to always get familiar with and use ledge info as a resource. So oftentimes there can be a lot happening with a bill, a lot changes super quickly. You can hear something through the grapevine, and by the time you hear it on Tuesday, the news from last Friday is no longer accurate because something may have changed or it may have went through another step in the process. So really get familiar with and consider Ledge Info your resource for being informed. Aside from Ledge Info, and I think I might have frozen. Aside from Ledge Info, is also considering who might be sponsoring that bill, what organization, as a very valuable resource. So I just really want to emphasize the importance of being informed, because sometimes a lot of miscommunication can circulate around a particular bill. And it's important that we're going to the source. And so I'm going to drop, Shivani, thank you so much for dropping Ledge Info. I'm also going to drop a video we have on our YouTube channel about kind of how to use Ledge Info, or a little intro to using Ledge Info that can be a good resource as well.
Thank y'all so much. These are just some impactful wins. Just for the sake of time, we're not going to go through every single one of them. But these are some impactful wins that Initiate Justice has had over the years, thanks to the powerful support of community, organizing, calling their reps, showing up to meetings, whether they're in district or at the state capitol, sending emails, or just posting on social media and spreading the knowledge and information. And so we have been able to, these are some of our most impactful wins, but we have quite a few more. And we have more that we're working on this year. And so stay tuned, more updates to come. But those are just some of the most impactful ones. And then really quickly, go to the next slide to just share some of the resources. Yeah. And so we will be sharing out these resources. So some of them have already gotten dropped into the chat for those of my folks on Zoom. My folks here in person will make sure that these are also get sent to you. But these are some really handy tools to use if you are trying to stay informed into what's going on in the policy space. So the websites for both the California State Assembly and the Senate, as well as their committee websites. And so you can see all of the billion committees that California has and all of the bills that go through each of the committees. You can also pull up archive videos and watch like old committee hearings if that's your thing. Really, really interesting stuff. The ledge info. So that is where all of the bills are uploaded. So at each stage of the process. So as soon as a bill is introduced, it goes on to ledge info, and you could literally follow along throughout the entire process, like Antoinette was saying, on any changes or updates to the bill, if they add authors to the bill, whatever the case might be, right? So you can really follow along, and you can also create a free account. So you can get notifications and things like that and really track legislation.
That's if you're really deep into it and get those midnight notifications.
Yes.
That's something it is, Jay. I will add to you're back. I will add to like definitely like if check us out on YouTube. I'm not sure, I stepped away for a second, but if Antoinette mentioned it, definitely check out our YouTube videos. We have kind of those how-tos. You haven't even mentioned.
Next time.
Oh yeah.
No, go back. There, no, go back.
Oh,
Go forward.
there you go.
There you go.
There you go. So yes, our YouTube videos at Initiate Justice. Again, we have the kind of a brief, better breakdown or longer breakdown than what we went through today. Today again was our first time doing this condensed version. But how a bill becomes law in California, right? How to find your representatives, how to use Ledge Info, the tool that she was talking about when you're actually tracking a bill. If there's a bill out there that you heard of, you just need the bill number, simply do it, and then you can track it like Adriana said. You can sign up for notifications. If it's someone that's closely impacting you or your loved one, etc., you could do it. Changing narratives. There's some great videos. We also do have a great guide there, the Thinking About Our Movement Political Education Resource Guide. We did a couple years back. We have the Democracy Needs Everyone report, right? Again, these are just some great resources that we'll be sharing with you all. And then obviously our legislation, right? The bills, a little bit deeper dive into or more information on the bills that we've worked on, our past bills that we've passed, or didn't pass, actually. It could include all of them, and our current bills that we're actually moving through the process, and we will pass hopefully by the next month.
Yes, yes. And so it's 7:46. We had an activity planned, y'all, but we are not gonna do the activity because it's 7:45 and we end this at 8 o'clock. And y'all know me, I like to respect y'all's time because y'all give so much to us as Initiate Justice, and so the least we can do is respect y'all's time. But do want to give some last minute involvements. We do have a couple announcements about some upcoming events and things like that, but wanting to spend the last 13 or so minutes just to see if there's any other additional questions that maybe didn't get asked or answered. Want to make sure that folks walk away, again, not being an expert, but feeling a little bit more comfortable with the information than you came into today with. Anybody on person or on Zoom or in person? Do you have internship opportunities, especially remote? So no current internship opportunities, but we do have volunteer opportunities. So if you want to, can you drop your and my email into the chat? You can reach out to myself and or Ephraim, and we can tell you a little bit more about like the different opportunities we have for volunteer. And we can always talk about who is this? Caitlin? Yeah, Caitlin, we can always talk about what does it look like to develop internship opportunities, right? If that is something that folks are interested in, and there's a big enough need, I think definitely it's something that we can talk about for sure.
Yes, Caitlin, and definitely reach out to us, please, because we appreciate you and your entire class being here present with us.
Yes, thank y'all so much. Did you save that document with the list of questions that they dropped?
Yes, I
Okay,
did.
perfect.
I got it up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If there's any questions in there that you think we haven't responded to,
Let me check it out.
we got your email about coming. Nice. Stephanie, go ahead.
Sorry. I had Am I?
Go ahead. No.
Oh, okay. I had seen Efren's response to my question regarding the what you said regarding detractors, and I just want to clarify that it's not the discussions that we're having. It's me getting overly passionate about that, and that's what I want to make sure that's in the email is just more information about what you had said about specifically the detractors, and because I need to learn how to address those situations.
Yeah, like I don't think we have anything specifically like for detractors specifically, but it's just very general. Like I can also be a very passionate person, and so you really just have to meet people where they're at. So we'll make sure to include some of that information into the recap for sure.
Yeah, just some simple language. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. And I would just say, I think what Adriana said, like really meeting people where they're at, right? Having these important conversations. I've sat in rooms, like since I've been home 5 years now, and I've sat in rooms with individuals that would never realize that I was previously incarcerated. And I enjoy that. But then like we're already engaging in a conversation, whether something that's going on right now. And then when I share that, like it shifts the narrative, but then it opens them up because then like some people that I've talked to have never had a loved one incarcerated, right? We're never impacted by incarceration, right? So hearing my perspective, again, it's just meeting folks where they're at. And it's not like about like, oh, you're right, I'm wrong type of thing, but it's kind of like understanding each other, right?
Yeah.
I love having those conversations. Like it really, like those are the ones I look forward to, right? And it's not for me to change your perspective, but it's for you to see where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And why I believe the way I believe in regards to the work that we do.
Absolutely. And sometimes people have trouble seeing because we've all been so not I can say indoctrinated, right, by the system of prisons and policing, and vengeance is the proper response to harm. So it takes a lot of unlearning. A lot of unlearning. I am still unlearning stuff, and I've been home for 10 years. And so it does take a while and a process for people. So even when you are dealing with folks who are not agreeing with you, or if they're detractors, or they're just simply in opposition, right? Sow those seeds, plant the seeds. And sometimes it's about making folks see humans as opposed to policy. And so sometimes we're always talking about prisons, but sometimes we have to break it down and talk a little bit about, well, who's actually in here? These are mothers, these are daughters, these are sisters, brothers, cousins, grandparents, grandmothers, right? And so when we break things down like that, we can have an easier time when we're talking about people and what we should do with people as opposed to inmates and things like that. Which is why folks should definitely check out our video on YouTube, Changing the Narrative, because there's so much good stuff in that video about people-centered language and how to help folks see things in a different light, for sure. But those are great questions, Stephanie. And yeah, I think we all can relate to getting very passionate about the things that we care about and really, really just want people to like sign on. I know what I'm talking about, right? And you just want to shake them. But sometimes we can't shake them. We can't shake them. All we can do is sow the seeds. And like I said, let the chips fall where they may. But y'all continue to do what you're doing, continue to advocate, continue to speak up for no matter how long, how little. Just continue to show up and use your voice and chip away at the armor, and eventually the dam will break. Eventually the dam will break. Great questions though. Any other questions in the chat or from folks in person?
We have another hand raised on Zoom.
Oh, Sherry, I'm so sorry. I didn't see your hand there. Sherry, what's
That's
your question, my dear?
That's okay. I just wanted to say, just real quickly, to the new people, to the folks that haven't been here before, or this is a whole new experience for them, either just getting out or just getting someone in. Keep coming, keep listening. It may not all apply to you. It may not all make sense to you right away, but you will find something one day that you'll go, oh my gosh, that really helped. And I've been coming quite a long time now. This is all brand new to me in this world, and it's gotten me through some of the hardest times I've ever had to face in my life. So don't give up. keep trying, keep listening. You'll find your niche. You don't have to get totally involved right away. Just listen and you'll learn something every single time. So bless you all for all you do. I appreciate you.
We love you, Sherry. Thank you so much. It's always a joy to see your face. And yeah, Sherry's one of our OGs, y'all. She's always here in support. And definitely take her advice because it's gold. It's gold. But thank y'all so much for joining. Are there any other questions, thoughts, information folks need? Anything at all? Anything at all?
I have a question. What
Yeah.
are some of the volunteer ways that you
So we have volunteer opportunities for, I know, like mail nights, we do things like that.
We definitely have some volunteer opportunities in regards to like just the work that we do. We couldn't do this again without our community. We constantly receive mail from our incarcerated community, from our inside members, where they're sending us lists of data to sign up, new members to sign up, etc. Tabling events, right? great work.
We
Tabling
have one
events,
coming up on
responding
October
to
11th.
mail, and I know if Kaylin's still here, there's definitely ways to get involved with that. To responding to mail as well, like we'll respond. We have a system in place, like so. Definitely, like if you're interested, we can connect, and then I'll add you all.
Okay, we'll make sure to email you.
Yeah.
Yeah, tabling events,
Yeah.
and then we have we can talk about other opportunities. What's your name?
And I think just for the sake of time,
Claire?
we do have some upcoming events that I wanted to share with you all before I see some people hop off. We'll definitely still share it. This Saturday, if you're in the LA area, for y'all that are here, if some of you in the Zoom are in the LA area, this Saturday in collaboration with our community partner organization Project Protocol, we'll be running we're hosting an event here at the office as well, actually down in the mezzanine where this meeting was supposed to be for us. It'll be, I already have it on the yes, it's called the Road Back, Building Community and Release. Again, this is a launch for a zine, a little project that we did in collaboration with them, so for helping individuals who are currently on parole to have like a pathway to getting off of parole, right? But it's also an event just to celebrate community, right? Community building. We want to celebrate freedom for those who have came home, whether you came home recently, whether you came home 5 years ago. Like, just come be in space with you all. I'll drop it here in the chat. You can oh, she did it. Okay. Definitely you could RSVP. It's just a quick event, right? Again, it'll be here, there'll be some food. We'll have some open mic, we'll have conversations, we'll have some games. It's gonna be a fun event for Saturday from 1 to 5. And then also we'll drop a couple other
It's free. Come one, come all.
And then I'll also drop this other virtual event for one of our coalition that we're in, Caper. And please remind me the
Capper,
yes.
California it's a parole. It's parole reform.
California Alliance for Parole Reform. It's a newer one. It's one of our newer
ones. That's all y'all
ones.
need to know. That's all y'all need to know is that it's parole reform.
Shivani, thank you. We were quick on it. I was like, my mind went blank right now. Sorry, I was taking a long day. But definitely invite you all to attend. It's a virtual on Tuesday, 6:30 to 7:45. Again, we're doing some amazing work with that. And then next month, for those that want to get a head start, we do have our October community meeting. This one will only be virtual via Zoom meeting. Again, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We'll be joined by some community partners, Alliance for Boys and Men of Color, to have a discussion in regards to domestic violence, how men play a role in it, how we can get involved, the gender justice, some of the policy work that they're working on, and just different ways to get involved. Again, just another great organization. So we'll have them come as guests and really share with our community, the amazing work they're doing in regards to this. I know they have some fun stuff. So if you're interested,
Or you know folks
or
that are
you know folks that are
interested.
interested, share that out.
Yeah,
Yes.
or if you know folks that are personally impacted. So we're probably not gonna be talking about like direct services as much, but if you know folks who have experienced DV or intimate partner violence in any way, definitely invite them. Make that something new, learn something new in terms of like plugging into the work in a different way, and fighting for more healthy policies to actually eradicate the violence. You know, if we help people heal, maybe we won't be so upset. Right.
And if you enjoyed today, and our system impacted, again, this is sharing the Institute of Impacted Leaders program, a 12-week program that we have for people that are directly system impacted, whether you have a loved one incarcerated, loved one that was incarcerated, formerly incarcerated yourself. If you're interested in it, again, we go based off interest because we do bring this program to all the state of California. We've graduated 19 cohorts now. We currently are running our San Diego and Sacramento County cohorts this year, which we should have a graduation soon for them.
Yeah, it's
but
coming.
if you're interested in some of the stuff you learned today, again, this was some information taken from that curriculum. So if you're definitely interested in that, feel free to sign up on the interest form.
Yes. All righty, y'all. That does it for us. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you for hanging out with us every first Wednesday night. We really appreciate y'all. Thank you for those who joined us in person. Really, really appreciate y'all coming out and hanging out with us. Thank y'all for being with us. That wraps our meeting up. That will conclude. Y'all are excused.
Say bye, y'all. Say bye to everyone.
Bye. Be safe. Have a good rest of your week.
Thank y'all for joining us and bearing with us on our first ever hybrid this year.
Yeah. We've tried so many times, and it finally worked out. So shout out to the team. Thank you, Antoinette, for logging on. Shivani,
yes.
Any other team members that may be on, thank y'all for joining. But appreciate y'all. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.